and welcome to my channel, Distinctive Crochet. My name is Priscilla, and I would like to thank all my new subscribers for coming to check me out, and all my returning subscribers for spending some time with me. Alright everyone, so this is about another kind of tag or challenge that's going around, and it was brought out by the lovely ladies from Homemade with Love by Loretta Blaine, and I will link their channel down below. But I was actually tagged or challenged by Terry of the Yarnjoy Podcast, so that was awesome. So thank you, Terry, for this tag. And this is just to give you a little bit more information about a certain stitch or technique in crochet. So I am super excited to talk about this because I was actually watching Jeannie over at Butterfly Dreams Crochet with Jeannie, and she was doing a video and she had a question about what I'm going to be talking about today, and that is stitch multiples. So I have a few stitch dictionaries, so I come across this problem a lot, and I have kind of just fudged my way through it without actually giving it some thought. And so when Terry brought up this challenge, I was like, well, maybe I need to take some time and read a little bit about this and be able to get some accurate information, so going forward I can make better choices and maybe even better patterns, right guys? For those beautiful stitch patterns that I find in my stitch dictionaries. Alright, so first of all, a stitch multiple is actually there are stitches and then stitch patterns. Okay, so if you're doing a single crochet or slip stitch, half double crochet, treble crochet, things like that, those are just crochet stitches, right? But when you put any of those into a combination, then you're creating a stitch pattern. So if you are working up an item that's using a stitch pattern, there is going to be something called a stitch multiple, and what that is the number of stitches that you will need to create the stitch pattern evenly. So that way you won't have too many chains, or you won't be missing any chains when you're working up the stitch pattern. So for example, like the pineapple stitch, that has that stitch pattern, actually I should say, you know, has a certain stitch multiple, and it might and you know, like the linen stitch has, you know, a certain number of stitches that you need to chain for that, and many others that you all have heard of. So it might be something like a multiple of 4 plus 1, for example. And so what that means is you need to have a multiple of 4. So anything that runs in the 4 times table. So 4, 8, 12, 16, and so on. So you'll have to have anything like that. And then when you get your final number that you want to work with, so let's say if you're working a hat and you decide on 64 stitches, and then you will need to add 1, and that would be for your turning chain. But that is if you're working in rows. So the thing that Jeannie had a question about is she was saying, like, well, what if you want to work in the round? And she said, well, what would you do? Just drop off the turning chain. And I was like, I think that's pretty much all you would have to do. But like I said, it was, you know, just kind of a guess. So when I was reading up on this, I got out my book, The Crocheters Skill Building Workshop, and this is by Dora Orenstein. I hope I said that right. Let me put that up there so you guys can see. So and this is a really good author. She has a lot of great helpful books out there for designing and crocheting tips and things like that. A lot of great information. So she is a great author if you're wondering more about things like that. So I went in and read the section that she had about that, and that's pretty much what she was saying, is that if you want to work in the round, then you would just pretty much drop your turning chain, and then you should be able to come up with the stitch pattern evenly in your project. So another thing is that some of the things that I have come across when trying to convert a stitch multiple or a stitch pattern that has a stitch multiple into a project in the round is that the chart or the pattern sometimes has it starts off with half of the stitch pattern, and then it ends in the other half, just to give you a nice edge and to look visually pleasing. So when that happens, then you will probably want to make sure that you are starting in the beginning of where the stitch pattern actually starts, and not create half of the stitch pattern, because you're going to have half and half on either side of your join when you're going in the round, and that's not going to look quite right. So I'm going to take you guys into a recording that I just finished doing to show you a little bit more about what I'm talking about with that, and then I'll come right back and wrap this up. Okay. Okay, everyone, so this is just a free chart that I have pulled up on Pinterest, and I will link this down below in case you are interested. So this is a multiple of 6 plus 1, but if you were trying to make this particular pattern in the round, like if you wanted to do a hat or something like that in the round, then you would just drop off that last chain and just do a multiple of 6, chain up a multiple of 6, and then see how it's only a half of the stitch pattern on either end there. So you wouldn't want to necessarily do that, because when you go to join, then you kind of have this weird halves on either side of your join. So you would just want to start right where the regular stitch pattern starts at, and then you would just go from there. So that is something else to consider if you're trying to take a stitch pattern from working in rows to working in the rounds. So I hope that was helpful, and I hope this chart made it easier for you guys to check it out. And like I said, I will link this down below. And now I'm going to take you back into the video. All right, everyone. So I hope that little clip was helpful to you all. It's kind of hard to find free charts, so I just had to go on Pinterest to check that out. And you can probably go on there and experiment with different things like that if you don't have a stitch pattern book available to you. But if you do have one, go through and check it out and see if you can find some of the things that I talked about today. And if you have any questions, please go ahead and leave them down below, and I will do my best to answer those questions for you. This is still something that I did find out more information about it myself, but it's still something that I need to actually work up and try out and see how it goes. So if you have ever dealt with stitch multiple and turning it into the round, or if you have ever had any trouble with figuring that out, or if you were successful at it, if you can leave those comments down below as well. I'd be interested in hearing and reading what you guys have to say about that. So yes, so the stitch multiple is pretty much just how many chains you will need to complete the stitch pattern evenly when working in rows. It's given in rows, and then if you want to convert it into rounds, just go ahead and drop off that turning chain, which will be the plus however many. And that's in most cases. As you get into more intricate patterns, you may have to do a little swatch to figure that out, because sometimes those stitch patterns do have extra stitches that are needed to complete the pattern. So just be aware of that also. But for the very simple patterns, yes, just drop that turning chain, and then you should be able to convert that in a round. All right, guys, so I hope this was helpful to you, and thanks again, Terry, for the challenge and tagging me. So I would like to go ahead and tag Sheila, the Crochet Nurse, because I'm sure she would have some great information to pass along. I would like to go ahead and tag Darlene of Discovery Knitting and get this into the knitting community with her, because she does a pretty good job at explaining different things. So I hope she will accept this tag as well. And then I would also like to tag Katrina at Mindful Crafts and More, because I know she has great information and tips all the time. So I'm hoping that she will accept this tag as well. I know I tagged her a few times already, but I know she will have a lot of great information. So yes, so all you have to do is come up with a technique for crocheting and explain that a little bit more in detail about us, because it's kind of like what I've been saying. Like, it's just information that you want to know right now. So a lot of us don't have the materials to look through or research, or even want to take the time to do those things. And we just kind of want to figure it out or know it right now. So having this series out is great for everyone, because we all know we love YouTube, right, guys? We enjoy our community and sharing with each other. So this is a great tag to share and to learn from. So I'm hoping you ladies will accept the tag. And thank you to everyone who was watching. And like I said, please leave those comments down below, and I will check you out in the next one. Thanks again for watching.